The knock came at 8:47 a.m., sharp and official. I'd been expecting it ever since my mother-in-law Caroline called yesterday to inform me that authorities would handle the situation appropriately. I opened the door to find a woman in her 40s, professional blazer, kind eyes that looked tired. "Mrs. Amanda Morrison? I'm Lisa Brennan from Child Protective Services. We received a report about the welfare of your children. Please come in." I stepped aside, noting the black SUV parked across the street. Caroline and Richard Dalton couldn't even wait at home for their victory. Lisa entered my small apartment, and I watched her take in everything. The mismatched furniture I'd bought secondhand, the toys organized in milk crates, my 2 children eating breakfast at our scratch dining table. "Mommy, who's the lady?" Emma, my 5-year-old, asked through a mouthful of cereal. "Just someone here to visit, sweetie. Finish your breakfast." Lisa pulled out her file. According to the report, there are concerns about inadequate living conditions, potential neglect, and financial instability placing the children at risk. Filed by Caroline and Richard Dalton? I can't disclose who. My in-laws. They're parked across the street in their Mercedes, watching. I gestured toward the window. "They've been trying to take my children since my husband died 18 months ago." Lisa's professional mask slipped slightly. "I see. Well, I still need to conduct the assessment. May I look around?" "Of course." I followed as she walked through our 2-bedroom apartment. Yes, it was small. Yes, the furniture was old. But it was clean, safe, and filled with love, something my children never felt in the Daltons' mansion. "The report mentions squalor," Lisa noted, photographing the tidy living room. "I'm not seeing that. I vacuum daily. Can't afford much, but I can afford clean." She checked the kitchen, modest but well-stocked with healthy food. The bathroom, old fixtures but spotless. The children's room, 2 beds, handmade quilts, walls covered in their artwork. "Your son." She gestured to 3-year-old Marcus, who was building with blocks. "He's autistic. Early intervention therapy 3 times a week. I work nights so I can take him to appointments without missing them." "Where do you work?" "St. Mary's Hospital. Pediatric ward. Been there 8 years. I showed her my ID badge. "I'm working toward my RN degree. 2 classes at a time. All I can afford." Lisa made notes, then looked at the report again. Her brow furrowed. "This says you're unemployed." "That's a lie. Here." I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Pay stubs, bank statements, budget spreadsheets. "I may not have much, but I manage every penny." She reviewed everything carefully. The report also claims the children are malnourished and poorly clothed. Emma chose that moment to run past in her favorite dinosaur dress, rosy-cheeked and giggling. Marcus followed, sturdy legs pumping, both clearly healthy and well-fed. "They shop at Walmart instead of Nordstrom," I said. "To the Daltons, that's neglect." Lisa set down her file. "Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask, why would your in-laws file this report?" I sat heavily on my second-hand couch. "Because I won't give them my children. When James died, car accident, not his fault, they immediately started talking about custody. Said the children would be better off with them. Better schools, better opportunities, better everything. And you disagreed? Have you met Caroline Dalton?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Lisa's face went very still. "What did you say their names were?" "Caroline and Richard Dalton. They live on Pemberton Avenue. The white colonial with the fountain." Her voice had changed, gone cold as winter steel. "Oh, I know the Daltons." My heart sank. Of course they knew the CPS investigator. They knew everyone important in this town. I was finished. But Lisa wasn't smiling. She was staring at the file with an expression I couldn't read. Then she looked up at me, and her eyes were blazing. "Mrs. Morrison, are your in-laws aware that I would be the investigator on this case?" I don't know. Probably not. It's randomly assigned, right?" "Yes." She stood abruptly. "Excuse me. I need to make a phone call." She stepped onto my tiny balcony, phone pressed to her ear. Through the glass, I could see her gesturing animatedly. When she returned, her professional demeanor had a sharp edge. "Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you something unrelated to this investigation. Have the Daltons ever mentioned the Sunshine Hearts Foundation? The children's charity? They're on the board. Caroline never stops bragging about it. They were on the board." Lisa sat back down, and suddenly she looked older, angrier. "Until they embezzled $100,000 from it. The foundation provided medical equipment for disabled children. Because of what they stole, 12 children went without wheelchairs. 3 missed surgeries. I stared at her. How do you know this? Because one of those children was my nephew. And the woman who founded that charity, who mortgaged her house to keep it running after the Daltons cleaned it out, was my mother. The room felt airless. They stole from a children's charity? They called it administrative compensation. Paid themselves salaries for work they never did, submitted false expense reports, diverted donations. My mother discovered it during an audit. She tried to handle it quietly, for the sake of the charity's reputation. The Daltons responded by hiring lawyers, threatening to destroy her if she went public. What happened? Mom backed down. She was 73, had heart problems, couldn't take the stress. The charity folded 6 months later. She died last year, still heartbroken over those kids who didn't get help. Lisa's voice was steady, but her knuckles were white. I have every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence she gathered. I've been waiting for the right moment to use it. She looked out the window at the black SUV. And now they've handed themselves to me on a silver platter. I don't understand. Filing a false CPS report is a crime. Using CPS to harass a family is a crime. But more importantly, it gives me standing to investigate them. Their finances, their history, their fitness as potential guardians. She smiled, and it wasn't kind. After all, if they're so concerned about your children's welfare, we should thoroughly examine what kind of environment they could provide. She pulled out her phone again. Susan, it's Lisa. I need a full background team at. She rattled off my address. Yes, the works. Financial forensics especially. The subjects are Caroline and Richard Dalton. Lisa, I said carefully, I don't want you to get in trouble. I know you have regulations. Every single thing I'm about to do is completely by the book, she assured me. When someone files a CPS report suggesting children should be removed from one home, we're obligated to investigate all potential placements. That includes the people who seem so eager to take them. Within an hour, my small apartment was bustling with investigators. They documented everything: my adequate home, my steady job, my children's health records, their therapy schedules, the love evident in every corner. Then Lisa knocked on the SUV's window. I couldn't hear the conversation from my balcony, but I watched Caroline's smug smile vanish. Richard's face went from confident to confused to alarmed. Lisa handed them papers. Caroline tried to refuse them. Lisa calmly pointed to the official seal. They were still arguing when the police arrived. Fraud investigation, Lisa explained when she returned. Amazing how a legitimate CPS investigation can uncover old crimes. Especially when someone's been sitting on evidence, waiting for jurisdiction. The next hours were a blur. The Daltons were taken in for questioning. Their lawyer arrived, flashy suit and bluster, but left looking shaken after seeing the evidence. My children, blessedly, played through it all, unaware their grandparents had tried to steal them. That evening, Lisa sat at my scratch dining table, officially closing her investigation. No evidence of neglect or abuse, she stated for the record. The home is appropriate, the children are thriving, and the mother is exemplary. Case closed, no further action required. What about the Daltons? That's no longer a CPS matter. But I can tell you the DA is very interested in the charity fraud. And filing a false CPS report? That's going to make family court very unsympathetic to any custody claims. She paused at the door. My mother would have liked you. She always said the best parents aren't the ones with the most money, but the ones with the most love. Lisa, I don't know how to thank you. You just did. By being exactly the mother your children need. And by giving me the chance to finish what my mother started. The Daltons' trial made the news. Embezzlement, fraud, filing false reports. The charity scandal broke wide open. Other victims came forward. Their society friends disappeared like smoke. They got 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, and were ordered to pay restitution. Not enough for what they'd done, but enough to ensure they'd never threaten my children again. Caroline wrote me one letter from prison. Asterisk, you poisoned that investigator against us. We were trying to save those children from your poverty. Someday you'll see we were right. Asterisk. I kept the letter. Evidence Lisa had taught me was always valuable. Emma and Marcus are thriving. We still live in our small apartment, though I did get a raise that helps. Emma started kindergarten, bright and eager. Marcus's therapy is working wonders. Neither asks about the grandparents who saw them as possessions rather than people. Sometimes I think about that morning, how differently it could have gone. If Lisa Brennan hadn't been the investigator. If the Daltons hadn't stolen from her mother's charity. If they'd been smarter, more careful, less arrogant. But they weren't. They were exactly who they'd always been. People who took what they wanted, confident in their immunity. They'd filed that report expecting to crush me, never imagining they were walking into their own trap. Unfit mother living in squalor, the report had said. Now I have it framed, officially stamped unfounded, hanging in my living room. A reminder that sometimes justice comes from the most unexpected places. And sometimes the people who try to destroy you hand you exactly what you need to destroy them instead. Lisa sends Christmas cards. This year's had a photo of her nephew, walking with the assistance devices the charity should have provided years ago. Inside she'd written, Asterisk, Mom always said the universe has a way of balancing scales. Thank you for being part of that balance. Asterisk. I tucked it carefully with the others, evidence of a different kind. Proof that love, integrity, and patience sometimes win against money, connections, and cruelty. Even when that victory comes in the form of a CPS investigator with her own scales to balance.